So in those days, you didn't have to go to college to go to law school. So he saved his money. I don't think his parents gave him any help. And he went to a prep school so that he could pass what are known as preliminary examinations. He had Latin history, this kind of thing. He went to a place called Conway Hall, which was in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Went there for a year or two, graduated, and then took some examinations and was admitted to Dickinson Law School. After a year, he ran out of money, and he went to Detroit, and he got a job selling maps in Detroit and in Canada for, I think it was the Rand McNally Map Company, and in that way put himself through second-year law school, which was Detroit Law School. And finally, World War I had come along, and my father had a bad eye from childhood illnesses. He couldn't see out of one eye too well, or if at all, I'm not sure. And he got a job in Washington, and so he was then able to enter his third-year law school at Georgetown Law School, and graduated. Then he came to Philadelphia and got a job with a man named Maurice Spicer. Spicer, in those days, law firms were small. Spicer had a one-man office. He was an assistant district attorney doing most of the major trials. At the same time, had a large practice. My father worked for him. And Spicer ultimately would not give my father an office, made him work in the waiting room with a roll-top desk. Father got upset with this, and one day was sitting in court and met an elderly lawyer named Andy Quinn. Andy Quinn was a drunk, but he had a practice that was in trouble. My father took over that practice for a while and then tried to support himself. And he was basically a sole practitioner.
What sort of law did he practice?
He practiced anything that came along. He did criminal cases and civil cases and murder cases, whatever he could do. And as you know, he got into the insurance law business. The way he did that was, there was a little outlaw law school that was established in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia College of Law. Some of the people got together as some friends. But they were ultimately closed up by the Pennsylvania bar. But they turned out a lot of lawyers. They passed the bar, and he gave courses in some courses in insurance law, and he kept his notes and ultimately developed into a book.
Okay, and that's we still have that book. And can you say a little bit about your mother and her family, her parents,
yeah, sure,
and how they met?
Well, one of these days we'll go through the large picture that we have of a very nice family growing up. My mother, Sarah, told me that the family came from Ukraine, and she said that she came from the area of Kiev. I doubt very much if they came from Kiev, because I do not think that Jews were permitted to live in the cities. So she would say, Kiev Guberny. Your mother just told me of that word, which means in the vicinity of. And
well,
I don't. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I don't want to interrupt. In this book, when these people, these fictional characters, come to Pennsylvania, they refer to the gubernia of Pennsylvania. So it may have been something like a state.
State.
I don't know the area.
Mm-hmm.
And what was her maiden name?
Rabinowitz.
That's right.
And I'm not sure who came over first, but I do recall hearing that my grandfather, good-looking guy, I mean, you'll see his picture somewhere, handsome man, with his oldest son, Louis, I think worked briefly in the mines. They came to Pennsylvania as well, to Schuylkill County. And I'm not sure what town they started in. I think it was maybe around Mount Carmel, somewhere in that area. Worked in the mines briefly, probably went out then with a pack, you know, become merchants and ultimately worked the store. And I believe that their business was, again, a clothing store. It was a large family, a large, very nice family, good-looking people. Lewis was the oldest, and then I think my Aunt May was next, and then Charles, and my Aunt Edith, and my mother, and then the youngest was Aunt Molly, and I think you have met that Aunt Molly. And most of them, some Lewis went to the Detroit area ultimately, but the rest of them stayed around Pennsylvania, from Harrisburg eastward. When my grandfather became older and was retiring out of business, they wound up in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Is that where Dickinson is? I think so. They went there and they provided rooms for the law students at Dickinson. So a lot of the old lawyers in Philadelphia knew my grandfather and grandmother because they had lived in their house. I think that my grandfather was very well read, very intelligent. My grandmother, his name was Slay, or Schlach, I guess, or Slay. And she came from a family that she had a brother who became very wealthy. His name was Benjamin Slay, and he had sons who were very ambitious. They went to the Wharton School and started to acquire real property, and then developed a series of parking lots in Philadelphia. It's called the Slay system. I don't think it still exists, but they were the ones that had all of the parking lots tied up and were extremely wealthy. I remember Benjamin Slay coming around. He would come around with a chauffeur in a big pure Sarah automobile, and we'd go off with him to take a ride somewhere. He had one leg off, he had diabetes. I don't remember too much about I don't have fond memories of my grandmother, Slay, Frida her name was. Because I think that when I knew her, she must have been senile. She lived with my Aunt May. Aunt May kept her dressed up beautifully, and you know, she was kind of impatient with children. I have a great number of cousins from all of these people. Aunt Edith never married, never had children. She did marry, but the rest of them had children. And Lewis had a lot of children. If you ever want to know about those, I could.
Well, at some point, we could get a big piece of paper and get all that.
I don't remember all of them, but he had a lot of them. A lot of